and we are talking about public-private partnerships with a special outlook and focus on the Nakivubo Channel. For context of our viewers who are viewing this, we're giving you context that the proprietor, Hammis Kigundu, of a famous Nakivubo Stadium now, sought a proposal where he wants to use the 9-kilometer long Nakivubo Channel to develop it and put buildings on top and a resting park, and also manage the sewage system, which is right now in a very bad state. The politics of it is that while there was opposition at the very beginning, later the president of this Republic of Uganda wrote to the Prime Minister instructing her to let the deal go through, saying that there was full support for the project. The other side of the story is that KCCA, under the sitting of the mayor, Omulodi Elias Lukwago, who was in opposition of the proposal, met opposition from the National Unity Platform-dominated council. And the council members of dominantly NUP were in support of Hammis Kigundu project, which the Lord Mayor described as sheer betrayal to the opposition. But also the other side of what made news through Monitor, NTV, and Observer is that while the relevant committee on parliament had decided to sit to listen to the proposal and the artistic impressions that had been released by the businessman, but were stopped by the speaker to say that another committee would handle that. And the proceedings did not proceed. What stood out and what did you read out of that story of the Nakivubo Channel? Nicholas.
Well, thank you, Harold. I think that the story of the Nakivubo Channel needs to be studied further, but we cannot discuss about it in one facet. We are looking at how have the previous public-private partnerships fared,
played out.
You know, what are the influences? If something is being built out of a fair process to bring a good result, why must a letter come from State House sidelining NEMA?
Where are the systems?
Sidelining all the systems, saying, no, award him. First of all, why him? He's always getting deals to do the stadium. Is what he promised around the stadium the same thing that he did? Does he have a track record of keeping promise in PPFs?
Yes, they say there's a very big channel, poetically and pun intended, between the artistic impressions he releases
and the final product. But also, if a committee of parliament says, let's investigate, let's look further into it, why not allow it to do its job? So
checks and balances,
exactly,
basics of it.
So I'm saying that the spirit surrounding this whole thing is plugged into circumventing due process. And you must ask yourself why. What are they hiding? Why can't they let, if something is going to be okay, and why can't they let the committee of parliament look into it? Why can't they let NEMA, the man was scared. The man, you remember the saga around,
I get you.
The mayor going to see it's not because he doesn't want him to meet, but it's because a letter has, put yourself in his shoes. A letter has been sent from State House. That's way above your pay grade. And for
an issue that started even in the reign of Alhaji Nasa Ntege Sebagala, because Nakivubo question was in play. Yes. Who is to develop it and how is it to be developed?
And the mayor said so many people have applied, including the deputy speaker.
Yes.
But they have been put down before. So a letter has come from State House.
Directly saying, let this one.
And even the people that have been copied to that letter, your organization, your entity, NEMA, that is supposed to be overseeing these things and giving plans and viewing plans and giving go-aheads, has been
cut out of the
people
pipeline.
That, then how do you entertain the mayor? You're putting your job at risk.
I think I should tell the viewers and give context.
The question is, Harold, how have PPFs performed before? What PPF can we look at and say, this one has performed well, we can now trust the other PPFs to perform?
The Umeme concession made this country over $100 million in about 7 years after. Let me just give context to the viewers. Most of the recent PPP projects that we have had, in transport, we have the Rift Valley Railways. and Pioneer Bus Company, we know how that story ended, where there was a discussion on giving a private company part of the managing transport within Kampala. We know how that story ended. In energy, we have the Bujagali Hydro, which is also a private public partnership. We have the Eskom Hydro project. We have the Umeme distribution, which has now ceased, and there is an ongoing arbitration in London about how that ended. We have the Agreco thermal plant, which has also not lived to see its great success, and there's a lot to say on that. Then mini hydro Severos in West Nile. The West Nile Power Grid is also a private public partnership. In water, there are small town water projects. Sugar? I don't know the details of Atiak Sugar being a combination of both, the government and private. But also maybe the example of the local markets that we see that were built under MATIP 2. Some of them are private public partnership. We actually have an act that governs. We have a public-private partnership act of 2015, and we actually have a special committee and a framework policy to guide who should take what and when can government partner with a private individual or company to do a project. So do we have an issue that even when the results might be there, the process of how these awards are made leaves a lot to be desired?
Well, personally, Harold, I don't think that let me use example. Let me use just a small example of, say, a wedding. Yeah, if you have seen a girl, you have desired them, there is a natural process of progression that things must take. Because you have the intentions are righteous. You have seen them, you want to make them your wife. So why would you say, for us, we shall not do kuchara, or we shall hide away from kuhinja, then I don't want her parents to meet me. Every time there is frustration of due process, the question is, and most of these things actually start from procurement, from how have you identified Ham to be the person with the best plan to develop that land? Was it advertised that Nakivubo needs developers so that people can,
Many people had been bidding.
Many people had been bidding for so many years, about 15, 20 years. People are bidding to build something. All of them are sidelined.
I get you.
Until one day when the president says, Ham showed me something, then let's, The question is, why that one?
So it's more of
do they have the best plans? So it's more of, it's when it frustrates due process, you start to ask yourself, who is going to gain? Who's going to benefit from this thing?
And I think
at the end of the day, it's
do not
more
care about how things run as long as they are perfect. I don't think, apart from the cost and the compensations that were incurred with the loan, for example, for the express, people have an issue on how it is operating. So you can play the politics, but do not disadvantage the Ugandans, because eventually they are the ones to pay. We have a perfect example of what Umeme represented, how much the government lost in a very bad deal that was bled out of just selfishness. So that's where maybe Ugandans have an issue.
But also, you see, Nakivubo Channel is at the center, is in the city center. It affects a lot of business downtown. Any slight problem in its development is going to be affecting business on a major scale. That's why Ugandans have gotten up to say no. Is this thing because they know anything that happens on that channel is going to affect them. Naturally, the whole of downtown, it could flood the whole place. If it is, shoddy work is done. So I think Ugandans have started to see that a government dealing on this part, if it's going to affect me, I have a part to play in the decision that is being made.
Here at the Checkmate, we focus on informing the viewers.
Yes.
Just to give perspective to this, the World Bank gives parameters on what are the drivers of successful public-private partnerships. It talks about political stability and the will. It talks about very good legal frameworks. That's where we have a gap. It also talks about a political commitment from the political players. It talks about the technical and management capacity from both sides, which is, I think, one of the issues that we had with Umeme and the negotiation bit.
Political and technical.
And technical management capacity. So some of these things where we have a problem.
You're talking about the technical management capacity, and I remembered the story of Uganda Airlines, where they were going to procure aeroplanes, and the people that were going was the head, the one of financing,
Yes.
the one of, I think, human resource. And then these people were like, but you guys have
zero.
No technical person on board. How are you going? If we tell you this is the kind, this is the engine make, this is the longevity, how are you going to ascertain? I mean, you're just a head of an institution.
Uganda Airlines actually made 7 years today. But
did.
7 years later from when that news broke, we have news that they indeed purchased bad planes, to put it the exact way that was bought.
That is the same thing that I'm telling you about PPFs. Is that these deals are negotiated for just for personal gain in the moment. So people don't mind if Umeme is going to stay for 20 years. 20 years later at their exit, how much are they going to take from the economy?
I get you.
That is not what they're looking at. We had talked about here before, I think on the checkmate, the deal of the tickets on the road.
Yes.
The
EPS.
The EPS system. Very poorly.
There were victims behind the corridors. There were 3 or 4 companies, and in fact the company that had the best bid on paper was not even close, because for them they wanted the same way you have airtime, there's express punishment, and it is, I'm using the word airtime carefully, it is chopped off your phone immediately. That is what it was supposed to be, and the guidelines were there and on everything. In fact, there's a rumor that one of the people that were behind that and were fully supporting it was General Kahinda Otafire, who actually even said that he wrote to the president to explain which of the companies available should have the deal. But we have a deal that is brokered the Ugandan way, and then it brings what was there, and they have to retract. I think even the suspension might go up to January, with no clear systems. There were gaps in the company from the country of origin. We can go on and on talking about